Recently, I've been listening to the Brazilian artist Yoñlu, who was 16 years old when he killed himself, which is the same age I am. But I was listening to his music, and the main reason why it gotten popular was because his parents had released his album after he had passed away. But I was just listening to his music and I was reading through his blog because you can find a screen cap of his blog on the Internet Archive. There's not much of it left, but you can go back and kind of read some of the posts that he had up there. I believe his family removed it because he had images of them on there. But if you go back through his work, there's always this sense of obscurity about it. Like you're seeing something that you're not really supposed to see. And I realized that the album itself was propagated and advertised by a member of the Talking Heads after he heard his story. So it's not exactly obscure if you have a member of the Talking Heads actively advertising these things. Hundreds of thousands of Brazilians at the very least have heard about this. I mean, there was a film that was made about him. So it's not as if he's completely obscure. But to many of us in the West, that is the case. And certainly his website is shrouded in nothing but mystery because so much of it can't even be found. A lot of the pictures that were posted on there as well as aid to the points he was making are just gone because Internet Archive didn't save images like that back then. So you're not really going to get a full picture of who he was. And I think that's part of the interesting thing about it. Because in order to understand his work, you have to dive into all of it that's there, and you really have to think about what's being said on the deepest possible level in order to come up with any substantiative answer to what was going on in this guy's mind. And yeah, a lot of the lyrics are fairly direct, but even then, like, in order to fully understand the story here, you have to piece together everything. You have to really look at it and piece it all together. And it isn't just with people like this who are kind of mysteries who have come and gone due to the ills of their own mind. There's a lot of people who are still alive to this day that their entire internet presence hasn't been advertised just because they don't care. They're more concerned with their own aesthetic or the identity of what they're doing rather than making what they're doing popular. They want to be that person who's over there at the side of the room, with the bright clothes that no one's really sitting by, but everyone knows who they are. And sometimes people do that through being intentionally obscure. I'll show those goddamn chads by making a blog that only has 20 readers and has obsessive text on it where it's like, five different colors going on at once that makes your eyes bleed when you look at it. Um, and people on NeoCities and stuff like that who are writing blogs about just weird subjects that most people wouldn't think about. And those tend to be the people who want their identity to be something that if you blink, you miss it. And I'm very fascinated by this because you only have a limited amount of time to be alive, right? And so the more art that you find, the more things that you come across, a lot of it is dependent on just how lucky you are to come across it. Because I wouldn't have found out about this person without a friend of mine telling me, and the only reason he found out about it was because of a Rate Your Music profile that he saw 2 fucking years ago that he just now randomly remembered and happened to look up the artist. Do you realize the amount of chance that's being played in a scenario like that? He literally had to have something trigger his memory to remember this guy from 2 years ago who he had barely thought about since then. And then I happen to know that person because he watched my videos, so he told me about it. And the only reason he knew about my channel was because he found my video from r/deep into YouTube when the 3 a.m. video got posted there and it blew up really big. I couldn't have predicted that that video would have blown up on Reddit. I couldn't have predicted that that guy was going to become my friend and that I was going to keep talking to him, for him to then remember this guy that he saw 2 years ago. The amount of circumstance that plays into that is incredible. And so much of the art that we find on the internet, so much of the art that gets archived on the internet by people like me who care, is completely by chance. And it's so weird to me that this kind of obscurity, this often intentional obscurity by many people to be the one who's, over here against the grain that has to be shared by random folks just by chance. The fact that that's special is really cool in and of itself, but at the same time, I'm just thinking about this, like the amount of circumstances that have to be in play in order for something like that to occur when I want to experience more of my favorite things. I want to experience more things I connect with. And in order to do that, oftentimes it's entirely reliant on this type of happenstance. And, like, what if my favorite artist, my next favorite artist, I was going to find out totally random? What if the next webcomic that I love the most is just going to show up on a random NeoCity site that happened to be shilled on, I don't know, A or something? I have no idea. Interesting links thread on the Hiki HN board or something. It like, the fact that there's people out there looking for this stuff to then bring to me, if I didn't go into the type of communities that would look for stuff like that, then I wouldn't find it. And if the circumstances in my life that led me to being this way, to looking for lost media and looking for obscure media, did not occur, then I wouldn't be finding those things. I wouldn't be enjoying those things. I wouldn't be sharing those things with other people to then enjoy. It's a ripple. And if you blink, you might just miss the ripple. Art is fucking weird, dude. We only have a limited amount of time here. And the fact that I've been able to find the things that I've found, in spite of all of the circumstances being against most people finding these things, is pretty cool.